Hello everyone, I am Kavya R and today I will be explaining how a website works and about front-end versus back-end. Let's start by understanding what happens when we open a website in a browser. Here in this image, the user enters or types the website address in a browser. The browser sends the request to the server and server finds the required information from the database and processes it and sends the result as a response back to the user. This process happens within seconds. Now let's understand what the front end and back end mean in this process. The front end is what the user sees and interact with, like buttons, menus, text and images. Here in this image, the email field, password field, sign in button are the front end, which is built using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. For example, when you click the sign in button or scroll on a page, that's the front end at work. But when you click the login button, something happens behind the scenes. That's the backend part. The backend includes browser, server, database, and application logic that process request and store data. The backend developer uses languages like Python, Java, Node.js, and databases like MySQL or MongoDB. For example, when you log in into your account, the backend checks your username and password from the database before giving access. Let's now see how both the front end and back end work together. Here, the front end sends user requests like login or form submission. The backend receives it, checks the database, and sends the result back. Together, they make a complete website work smoothly. Let's take a simple example to understand this better. Online shopping website. Here, left side user browsing products. In a right side, server database checking stock and prices. The front end shows product, images and buttons. The back end manages product data, stock, user accounts and payments. So when you add an item to your cart, both sides are working together. Now let's quickly summarize the difference between front end and back end. Front end works on client side. Backend works on server side. Front end is built using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Backend is built using Python, Java and Node.js. Front end handles user interface. Backend handles data logic server. And examples are like buttons, layouts for the front end and login database for the backend. Finally, let's conclude what we have learned. A website works through teamwork between front end and back end. The front end handles what users see and interact with. The back end manages data logic and server operations. Together, they create a smooth and functional website experience we use every day. Thank you.